So today we're going to bring our vehicle up into, well, modern times, and we're going to replace our stock light bulbs with some high output LED units. It's not anything like it used to be 20 years ago when we were building hot rods. So let's take a look. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to RATTLECAN Fab Shop. I'm James, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. The days are getting shorter and shorter, and we're having to go out on calls later and later in the day as well, so we're kind of needing to see a little bit better. My truck has got the original incandescent bulbs in it, and despite the damage by, I don't know, a gorilla that occurred during shipping, we're going to install these LED lights. Now, a long time ago, putting an LED bulb in a vehicle was a pretty intensive piece of wizardry, and today it's really easy today, comparatively speaking. So these, I got this off of the interwebs, and it's made by Fahren, F-A-H-R-E-N. They were extremely affordable. I'm into this for $42, $44, something like that. So anyways, you get the two bulbs. They have the same mount that the incandescent bulbs do. You just a quarter turn out and then a quarter turn back in, and then you want to make sure that you have this aligned so that your LED chips are at the 3 and the 9 o'clock position. You don't want them shooting up and down. You want them shooting side to side. And in order to get that adjustment dialed in, you can rotate this so that you can get it in. It's got two chips on the side, one for the regular beam, one for the high beam, and then it's got a little fan on the back. You don't have to worry about polarity like the older ones on this. It'll only plug in one way. And this has already got what's called a CAN bus. I don't know if you can call it a chip, you can call it a decoder, you can call it a driver, you can call it whatever you want to. Basically, you're trying to tell the computer that there's enough voltage and everything's okay. So I've got a 2011 F-250. This should apply all the way up to the 2015, maybe even the 2016 models. You're just gonna have to check and make sure. The grill, it's actually fairly easy to get off. You've only got 4 bolts up on the top. They are a 10 millimeter bolt. Don't drop them, because there's a black hole of great vasty nothingness down inside that grill if you drop something there. Now it'll pull away. It's a little stiff to get it. You can torque on it, pretty good before you're going to break anything. So what we're looking for is that clip. You got to have like a long blade screwdriver to reach all the way down in there and push that clip. That clip is what holds the bottom part of the grill in. There's 5 of them. And you just get enough pressure on the bottom of that, and it'll just pop for you. And then you can pull those out. The bottom of the grill will just pull out once you get all 5 of those released. Now take care, because up on the corner there are going to be a couple of little plastic tips holding in I don't know what that is. A skirt is kind of what it looks like on the side, to kind of funnel air into the radiator. You'll have to pop that off with a screwdriver. Again, you just pop it off with a screwdriver and it'll come right off. Just remember to put it back on. Now I'm going to let you in on a little hint here. There may be a video on the interwebs that tells you, here's the easy way to remove this headlight assembly. Just remove these 3 bolts. So here's a bolt here. That was pretty easy. You move that little skirt out of the side, and there's two more there, and then it kind of seems to come out, but something that I didn't learn until the other side of this was there's a fourth bolt, and it's kind of tricky to get to. Let me show you where it's at. So I'm going to show you where this is after it's taken out. There is a plastic threaded block that fits in that little bracket there. And with my small, delicate hands, even though you're not supposed to be able to, I was able to pry that out of there. There is a fourth 10mm bolt on the bottom side of that headlight assembly, and you've got to kind of squirrel your way in between the bottom of the assembly and the top part of your bumper to get that off. So just like the other side, you take the 10mm bolt off the top, and then you take the two off of the side, kind of back behind this skirt, and then is the fun part. You kind of have to go in at like about a 45-degree angle. This bolt goes front to back just like the two on the side, but to get there from where you're standing, you have to go in at an angle, and once your socket is in, then you can move over. I'm using a smaller 1/4-inch socket and an extension, and so it's thin enough to fit in there. You're never going to make it if you're using, just like a big old 3/8 or a 1/2-inch socket. You got to use a little, kind of like me. It's got to be dainty and delicate to really get in there and get the job done. So now I'm back over here on the other side, and I'm trying to undo the goat rope that I've created here. So this is that threaded block that fits in there, and that is what that 10mm bolt, the one hidden down there on the bottom, is going to connect up into. Now this part can be kind of tricky, especially if your headlights, if your light bulbs haven't been changed in a million years, because that needs to be like a watertight connection, so it's kind of tough. You have to press in that lever and then pull it out. If you're super gentle, you can put a screwdriver under there and kind of gently rock it back and forth. It's plastic. It's tough plastic, but it's plastic nonetheless. So don't go all He-Man on it and then bust the connection up on it. Now you give this about 1/3 of a turn, and it'll pop out. And I'm going to bring your attention to something right here. So if you see this little gasket, this gasket actually belongs on the light bulb. There's a little cup in there that holds it inside the light bulb. Mine is stuck onto the assembly. So if you don't know that gasket belongs on the light bulb, and you try to put another light bulb in there, it doesn't really matter how hard you push. It is not going to go on there. And it doesn't matter how much you grind your teeth or twist things or push down, it's not going to go in there. Trust me. And after a while of your family looking at you like you're some sort of madman as you're out there talking to yourself, you'll figure out that is actually supposed to stay on the light bulb and not on the light bulb assembly. And so then you'll suddenly get a burst of smartness, and you'll kind of get it figured out. Then it's real easy to put the light bulb in there after you take the second gasket out. Haven't ever seen a case where a double gasket works when there's only supposed to be one there, and this one's included. So the way it's supposed to go is you just put it in there, and the little notches will let it fit in. It'll only go in one way, and then you give it like 1/3 of a turn, and then you're able to adjust your little prong on the inside, so that again your LED bulbs are at the 3 and the 9 o'clock position when you have that assembly put in its proper place. So now let's give it a test. Make sure that it lights up. Make sure our connections are solid, nothing is wiggling around. And ta-da! we have light. So now we get to figure out how to secure this CAN bus module and get that secured away so it's not flopping around. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to get that little CAN bus module secured in there. I use just a little alcohol swab. Try to get all the dirt off of the plastic. Be sure that you also wipe off that little metal casing on that module, because there could be some kind of mold release agent on there, and I don't know how strong this double-sided adhesive is. If you really want to be sure that it's going to stick, you could always get some of the 3M. Is that the UHV or the UHB? The really strong 3M double-sided, because once you put that on there, it ain't ever coming off. So get it secured to the module first so you can put some pressure on there, and then go ahead and affixate that down to your light assembly. It will also give you a couple of zip ties, and you don't have to just make it crazy tight, but you want to make sure that your wires aren't flopping around. These are trucks. They bounce around pretty good, and what you don't want is a floppy wire to end up pulling that little module off of there, and then the whole thing flops around, and then you can put a lot more stress on that wire as it's going into that light assembly there in the back, and life's hard enough as it is. And we'll give it a little test just to make sure that everything's working, and sure enough, it actually works. You'll notice there's quite the bit of color difference between the regular filament bulb on your left and the color bulb, or the LED bulb, over on your right. Super yellow, kind of orangey over on the left, nice and white with a kind of a bluish color over on the other side. So okay, we know our wiring's working. I don't have any error messages on the dash. Let's go ahead and get the other side done, get this thing wrapped up. Make sure you pay attention to your tools, because you don't want to leave your flashlight installed in back of the light assembly, because you're never going to get it out of there. And then you'll get to take it off again and then retrieve it, and then you'll get to put it back on again. The only thing worse than doing something once is doing it twice. And as usual, the memory card filled up then the battery ran out. So anyways, we got it done, and it was easy to do. Once we figured out the thing about the double gasket, the thing about the fourth nut underneath the light assembly, it all went fairly smoothly. I'm very happy with it. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm James. You guys have a good one. Cheers. I hope you found this episode educational or entertaining, or maybe even both. You might want to check this one out as well. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified when new videos drop, and if you got comments, make sure you put them down beneath the sermon notes. Thanks for hanging out with us here at the RATTLECAN Fab Shop. Y'all have a good one. Cheers.